Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I hope you're doing very well. So, Sunday, June 16th, 2019, 6 a.m. Tokyo time. The next live stream film club discussion. And this time we will be talking about Rebecca. So I hope to see you there. Again, Sunday, June 16th, 2019, 6 a.m. Tokyo time. I can't wait to hear your thoughts about this very interesting film, Rebecca. Just to give you just very brief preliminary comments about this. This is spine number 135 in the physical media collection of the Criterion Collection. A very interesting Blu-ray packed with a lot of extra goodies, supplemental features. The presentation is a lovely 4K digital restoration. Very, very interesting, well presented. And then we have the 1990 audio commentary track by Leonard J. Leff. And then there is also the isolated music and effects track. A very interesting aspect of this film is its music and the effects. And then there's also a new conversation piece between Molly Haskell and Patricia White. And then there is also an interview with Craig Barron on the visual effects of the film Rebecca. And then there is the documentary called Daphne du Maurier, In the Footsteps of Rebecca. It has a lot of interesting bits of information in that, if I can say that. So, and then there's also another documentary here, I think from 2007. Yes, it's a making of documentary, which is equally as fascinating. Then there are on-screen, how should I put it? It's test footage. So we have screen tests featuring actors Joan Fontaine, Vivian Lee, Anne Baxter, Margaret Sullivan, and Loretta Young. Very fascinating look at the what-if scenario. You know, what if the role of the main character that ultimately went to Joan Fontaine? What if that role was played by a different actor? What would have happened? How would the film tenor have changed, if at all? It's a very fascinating what-if scenario. So we have the screen footage that can give you a flavor or taste of that. Then there are, there is the casting gallery with notes by director Hitchcock and Selznick, producer Selznick. And then there is the interview, the Tom Snyder interview of Hitchcock from 1975. And there's also his interview with Joan Fontaine in 1980, both of which are really fascinating. I really like Snyder as an interview host. He really gets to the heart of certain matters, and the interviewees are just they're filled with so many fascinating stories and tidbits of information. Of course, it's very fascinating. Then there are audio interviews with Judith Anderson and also with Joan Fontaine, which are equally as fascinating. It's great to hear those interviews. Then there are 3 radio adaptations of the work Rebecca, included in which is the Orson Welles Mercury Theatre adaptation of Rebecca. And then there is the theatrical re-release trailer. Plus, there is the essay, which is included here, which is called Welcome to the Haunted House by David Thompson. I highly recommend that you read it. If you have time before the live stream, I would highly recommend it because he goes into very interesting details about certain aspects of the film's narrative and how it relates vis-a-vis the backstage production battle, if you will, between Hitchcock and Selznick. A wonderfully well-written piece by David Thompson, and it goes by very quickly, but it's really quite the it has a way of tying certain things together, and in a very concise but very full and easy to follow way about the writing. So highly recommend the David Thompson essay if you have a chance. And then also there is a Hitchcock versus Selznick section, which is basically a collection of selected correspondence letters, so letters of correspondence between Hitchcock and Selznick, to show the communications between these two gentlemen with respect to the production of Rebecca. A very fascinating glimpse behind the scenes. What were the concerns of these two gentlemen, and how did they clash? What did they agree on? What did they not agree on? And how did they express what they felt about how to best express this work, Rebecca, on the silver screen. So yes, this is a full, rich presentation by the Criterion Collection. As always, stellar presentation. So yes, that's Rebecca as presented by the Criterion Collection. And as for the film, again, I'm looking forward tremendously to your thoughts and comments about this work. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. If I were to think of a couple themes that I hope to be able to discuss tomorrow, they would be, for instance, how the characters undergo their character arcs and how they develop over the course of the narrative. Because I would suggest that, well, as you know, in many fiction narrative films, you have characters that start at a certain place and they end up in a completely different place by the end of the work. It's called their character arc. Well, I would argue that the characters in Rebecca, they undergo various character arcs, and some of them, I think, are quite extreme in terms of the dramatic impact that occurs on the characters. I mean, think about where, for instance, the Joan Fontaine character starts at the beginning of the work, and where does she end up by the end of the work? I mean, it's a very wild roller coaster ride of a character arc, is it not? And so I'd like to get your thoughts about that, and how the film seems to suggest, portray, show, intimate this notion of character growth or character development through certain camera techniques or the like. So, and this is true for the Joan Fontaine character. This is true for Maxim de Winter. This is true for Mrs. Danvers, etc. So they start in a certain place, and I would argue that each of them ends up in a wildly different place by the end of their respective character arcs. So that's something that I want to focus on if I have the chance tomorrow during the live stream. Another thing I want to focus on is Hitchcock's style, and in particular, how he generates certain levels of suspense in this film. But let's go even more specific than that. So what do I mean as an example? Well, as you know, I don't want to get into too much detail right now, but as you know, the film deals with certain characters that we end up not seeing on screen. In other words, certain characters are spoken of a lot, but we never actually see them portrayed. And so, but they are very important to the narrative. And so it's very interesting to note how Hitchcock deals with the unseen character, the character that is spoken of but never seen on screen. So what are the ways in which Hitchcock's camera and his film technique enable us to imagine characters that are otherwise not seen on screen? What are the ways in which Hitchcock can bring such unseen characters to life, as it were? What are the ways in which Hitchcock can, what's another way of putting it, what's another way in which he can give life to something that is not alive? What is a way in which Hitchcock gives life to something that is dead? How does he animate something that is dead or inanimate? So this is the sort of thing that I'm very interested in, because this forms the key, or one of the key moments, or one of the cruxes of the film in terms of the narrative motion, and also the dramatic tension, and also the tension that exists among all the characters. How Hitchcock represents someone that is not there. How does he do it? And he does it in a way that I think is so powerful and so deserving of as much praise as possible. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about how you think he achieves this kind of animating the inanimate, or creating life out of something that is not alive, so to speak. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about that, in terms of Hitchcock and his skill as a filmmaker, the Hitchcock style, as it were. So that's just a couple examples of what I hope to be able to discuss tomorrow at the live stream. So again, it's Sunday, June 16th, 2019 at 6 a.m. Tokyo time. Again, 6 a.m. Tokyo time. So please check your own clocks, the world time, time difference, time zones and all that. So make sure you check that in your own particular time zone, wherever you are in the world, in your own neck of the woods. So I hope to see you there. And other than that, my friends, I hope you're happy and healthy and well, and that you are watching a lot of great, great movies. So until we see each other again, my friends.